And so what happened was prices in the CPI basket were stable because of all these great technological forces, but asset prices were going up because of the Fed's production of money. When someone tells you that the United States is not a manufacturing nation, remind them that the United States manufactured $769 billion in the calendar year 2021. We're not a manufacturing nation, but we know how to manufacture dollars. We've expanded M2, that's your money supply, by 42% since April 1st of the year 2020. So what's happening, Robert, is it's showing up in prices. The deflationary effect of all the technology cannot overwhelm that dollar volume. And so these forces are crushing the middle and are crushing the lower middle class. They cannot catch up. And I'll finish on this one note. If you have dollar-denominated assets, a savings account, a checking account, property, tell me what it is, you got taxed by your government last year. The central bank taxed you. If you have $10,000 in your checking account, the Skybridge economic team thinks that the purchasing power of that today is $9,250. So you got taxed by this overproduction of money. And so this is a short-term, will solve the immediate crisis in the short term, but we're going to create these horrific, deleterious effects to the society over the long term, because people that have labor and use their time and energy as a form of labor, they can't catch up with the people that have the assets. And they slip farther and farther behind as a result of these policies.
The most regressive tax. Let's talk about the Fed, because Biden is effectively thinking about another candidate, Lael Brainerd, known to be pretty dovish. I would argue that Jerome Powell is, kind of seeing the light, arguably the Fed being behind the curve a little bit with what we're seeing in inflation. What happens if we get the unexpected outcome? There's about a 35% chance of Brainerd. What happens? Does this become a marble that gets rolling too fast down the hill, and we can't? Is that a bad outcome in your eyes?
So the short answer is it'll look like a bad outcome in the beginning, but it will likely not be a bad outcome, because what we've learned about our government is it's got tremendous resiliency. The United States government is by and large decentralized. That is great for every businessman and woman in this room. The founders understood from the architecture of the government, if we decentralize the government and diffuse power, then you won't ever live under an autocracy. And so that would be the same thing for the Fed. If you look at the way the governorship board works with the Federal Reserve, if you get a super hawk or a super dove, they get pushed to the center by the Fed. By the way, whether you like Barack Obama or dislike Barack Obama, he got pushed to the center. You like Donald Trump or dislike Donald Trump, in a lot of ways he got pushed to the center by the general consensus of this decentralized government. So I would make the case that if she gets the nomination, it will not be that consequential. However, I think it would be very hard for her to get the nomination. You have a divided Congress, you have a 4-person majority in the House, you've got a split Senate, she's got to get the confirmation confirmed, and Jerome Powell is very popular on the Hill. Joe Biden, again, you may like him or dislike him, I'm just going to be objective here for the sake of this conversation. He has decided that he's going to lean with the radical left on a lot of different things. He's just decided he's going to do that. I think it's a wrong decision. He would have been way better off just governing up the middle. And so the radical left wants him to pick Brainerd, 100%. Because she's a modern monetary theorist. She believes that you can print an infinite amount of money where the reserve currency and the deficits don't matter. And technically, and she's written this, you want to erase $30 trillion of debt? Why don't we just create a coin that's worth $30 trillion, we'll mint it, and we'll pay off the debt? Okay, now, it doesn't work that way from an economic perspective. I can prove to you that the modern monetary theorists are wrong, but that's the camp that she lives in. And I don't think she can get the votes required to get herself confirmed. So I think Jerome Powell will likely be the Fed chair again. But he is up against it. He is up against something that's been rolling now for 50 years. And that is a combination of a devaluation of our money. And it's a combination of the United States making a decision by not making any decision. Right? You know that in business. You know, you've got a decision to make. You can do nothing or make a decision. Doing nothing is actually a decision. And so the United States has made a decision not to make a decision. They've ceded everything to monetary policy. So we're not going to have a 25-year industrial policy or manufacturing policy to right-size the nation. We're not going to have a K-12 equalization of education to help the country and to rehabilitate the country through jobs training. All we're going to do is pee on each other on cable news, and we're going to fight it out in 3 minutes a night, and we're going to think very short-term about everything. And oh, by the way, I really only care about my personal power. I don't care about public service. I'm going to do everything I can to keep myself in power, including gerrymander out my enemies and say mean and nasty things towards the other side. And so that's what we're doing. And so no industrial policy, no educational policy. You have a one-legged stool in the country the last 20 years. That is the Federal Reserve policy. You have a global financial crisis. Let's cut rates and let's increase liquidity until the financial crisis stops. You've got a COVID-19 situation. Okay, let's print $769 billion this year. Take the Fed balance sheet up to $7 trillion. Land money in the street for every restaurant and small business. And that's how we're going to solve our problems. It will work in the short term, but it has horrific long-term consequences. And here's the consequences. $30 trillion in debt. Lots of business people in here. Let's do some simple math together. A 3% increase in interest rates knocks the interest rate expenses on that debt to $900 billion. That's larger than the defense budget. You think they can afford to curb the inflation and raise the rates? They can't do it, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got 6% transitory inflation, should the 10-year Treasury be trading at 160? Well, 160 and 6%, you have minus 5.4% interest. Everybody following? You can't do it. So what do? You continue to print money. You continue to buy the treasuries and suck it into the balance sheet of the Fed. And you've painted yourself into a corner now that you actually can't get out of. Unless you can figure out a way to magnificently grow the economy and unite the country. And right now we don't have the political leadership that requires that. So Jerome Powell, the other one's name, Laird Brainerd, either one of them, they've got the same dilemma. They'll be making money, they'll be manufacturing dollars. We are a manufacturing nation. There'll be another $500 or $600 billion manufactured next year. So if you're sitting on assets, that's good. Your asset prices are going to go up. But if you're here as a laborer, you're not going to be able to catch up. You're going to get very frustrated, and you're going to think about nationalism and things like populism, and you're going to have, and maybe you won't even take the vaccine. Maybe that'll be a political statement that you'll make to stick your nose out at the establishment, medical, political, business, or whatever.
So let's talk about Biden. Bipartisan infrastructure bill. This can be a shorter answer because there's more on Biden. Is it in markets from your vantage point? You have an environment where assets are really inflated in price, especially cyclical assets. Is this in markets, or can you see another boost?
I don't 100% think it is in markets. I'll say something contrary. I think the infrastructure bill will be modestly deflationary. Everyone says it's going to be inflationary. We're borrowing the money. We don't have an offset in terms of the taxation. But if you improve the bridges, roads, and tunnels, the electrical grid, the Wi-Fi grid, it will have a natural effect of lowering prices in the economy. So even though you're spending that money, there will be positive economic gains associated with it. So I don't think it's 100% anymore. That's a contrarian view, by the way.
Does this increase the odds of the Build Back Better Act getting through as a result of this?
I don't think it does. I think if anything, there's a lot of soreness with the Republicans on the Build Back Better, and they're going to delay and run the clock out and hope that they gain the majority in 2018. 2022. And so, no, I think it modestly reduces the chances of build back better.
Do you think that's the straw that breaks the camel's back in the short run from markets being tolerant of debt and deficit spending? That interest rates start to get away as a result of that?
I don't think the interest rates get away because the Fed has this incredible capability of continuing to artificially suppress rates through their purchases. And I think the market has made a decision that this type of monetary policy is with us, which is why the growthery, or I'm not saying it right, I'm channeling George W. Bush right now, but the growthy part of the market is going to be the place where people reside over the next 20, 40, 36 months.
So it's really amazing what that does to risk taking when you're financially depressed.
Just remember, if you're sitting in cash, your cash is losing value by 6% a year. So when Elon Musk sells $5 billion of Tesla and he puts it in cash, he's losing $25 million a month in purchasing power on that cash. Okay, just I'm sort of putting to you very nakedly what's going on and why the decision making and the propulsion of the market is to put that back into the market and seek growth.
And there's such a shortage in yield availability in the marketplace. It's creating risk-taking all across the asset
No question. No question.
Let's continue on Biden. Approval ratings falling dramatically. What do you think's driving that?
Well, everybody in this room knows what's right. It's like Weekend at Biden's. Everybody watch Biden? I mean, come on. It's Weekend at Biden's. He's having a hard